where best friends and next-door neighbors, Willow and Lillian, spill the tea on murder, mysteries, and other things that go bump in the night. So get your favorite teacup ready, and let's get into it. Welcome to Cruelty Podcast. This is Lillian, and with me is Willow.
Hello.
I fucked that up.
Did you?
A little bit.
How?
I just felt like I was in another dimension when I said it.
You said everything right, though.
I did, but only because of muscle memory.
Like
it felt like I was just going...
clip. It's kind of like whenever you're driving and you just don't remember the whole drive and you just end up where you need to go.
Oh my God, quick story. So when me and Maris were still just talking on the internet and role-playing like fucking nerds on Warcraft, I had a date, and this date was very far out of town. It was like 3.5 hours away. Look, sometimes you just want to crumb a dick. I don't know what to tell you. So I told Maris I am going to go on a date, and Maris got very huffy. Now, we had not expressed feelings.
Right.
And he was like, well, you're bad at dating. And I got really mad. I was like, well, I'll show you. And so I drove there in the rain at like 2 a.m. I'd had no sleep. And I decided halfway through, I was like, this is fucking balls. Why am I doing this? This is going to be mid-dick at best. I'm going to turn around and go home and go to bed. But I was so tired. And I remember the rain kind of letting up, and I was like, oh, thank God. Driving in the rain is so stressful.
And sleepy. I always get
was
real
so
sleepy. Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I am missing time. I am in my driveway. It is 2 p.m. in the afternoon, and I have been asleep in my car and have no memory how I got home at all.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad
I'm glad everyone lived.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't drive sleepy to be spiteful, because I could have killed me and everyone.
Yeah.
But it was literally one of the weirdest things that's ever happened to me. I still cannot grok how that happened. But anyway, it's still dating app murder month.
Yes.
It is.
It is.
Trigger warnings for this one?
Yeah. So trigger warnings for this. I don't go into very much detail in this case, but there are brief mentions of mental health, sexual violence, and dismemberment.
That last one's...
I don't go into very much detail.
A big one?
I just mention it.
I know, but I like how it went from kind of mild to like, well, fuck, you know?
That's how this case goes, honestly. It's very mild, and then all of a sudden it's like, what the fuck? Yeah.
We'll let her rip.
So yeah, this is the case of Sydney Loofe. At just 24 years old, Sydney Loofe had her whole life ahead of her. Like many of the victims in the cases that we cover this month, Sydney was innocently looking for some fun and human connection when she was senselessly and violently taken from this world. The vulnerability of dating apps lend to an even more sinister twist to the perpetrator's profile. The stalking of prey while their defenses are down and their hopes are high adds a new level of disgust to these types of predators. I feel like we really get to unfortunately see that type of humanity when going into and like really researching these cases this month. I feel like that's kind of an overall theme for this
I agree
month.
with that.
You know, where you see a lot of true crime cases where people speak about the vulnerability of the victims of, you know, people that work on the street or live on the street, that kind of thing. I feel like that type of vulnerability comes with the understanding that there are dangers. And I feel like there's a very big juxtaposition to the victim profile in these types of cases, whereas there's vulnerability and it's known vulnerability, but there's not a level of known danger.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's a bit of a grab bag on this one.
Right.
And, you know, we're not telling you this so you, like, fear monger, so you're scared to go on dates.
No, but, I mean...
But, man, it is... It's just really... Some of it's just really shocking to me, I guess.
Yeah. And it makes you realize that, you know, there's that level of protection, self-awareness, and protection that you have to have on every level of your life. Like... If these types of things can happen, it's just like going to the gas station, something can happen. And I don't mean that we should always be fearful, but we should always be, I don't know, on guard, especially people that are more in that, you know, realm of prey. if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's not specifically women or feminine people, but it tends to be.
Yeah, I don't like that that's the case, but it just is, and it would be remiss to not say so.
Well, and even just talking about it, we know that, like, as a society, when we leave our house as feminine people, you know, I don't know a single person that doesn't automatically know how to put their keys in between their fingers.
You know, and I would say this is assigned female at birth. I would say trans women also would have this kind of fear.
1,000%. Non-binary people,
Exactly.
anybody that's slightly feminine presenting or had been. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and even I would say some gay men who
Absolutely,
are a
that's
little
still
more femme
yeah.
in their presentation.
Absolutely.
Smaller.
Anything that society wouldn't deem strong masculine, quote unquote. You know what I mean?
Yep.
There's just that extra level of danger in today's society, and it really fucking sucks. So Sydney Loofe was born Sydney Irene Loofe on August 21st, 1993 in Broken Bow, Nebraska, to parents George and Susie Loofe. Spending most of her childhood in Arcadia, the family moved to Neely in 2000. Sydney was considered a tomboy growing up. She had a big brother named Levi and a little sister named Mackenzie. She was like her brother's shadow, essentially, always trying to do things that he was doing, especially when it came to sports. She loved fishing and the outdoors. She played basketball and golf in school. She had hopes of furthering her athletic career, and she excelled until, as a teenager, she developed scoliosis. And it got so bad, and it was so painful to play in any sports at all that she had to drop out. And this caused her to sink into depression, understandably, you know, like the direction of her future that she thought she was going in suddenly changed drastically. And now she had to battle the letdown of her dreams on top of the physical pain that she was enduring. But she pushed through. And that's the thing about Sydney Loofe. She was a positive person. Even though, you know, life had gotten her down, she found ways to smile and to make others around her laugh. Her battle with mental health continued as she pushed through life. Her mother even said that it was the topic of conversation the day before she went missing. Sydney had told her mother, Susie, that her depression symptoms were getting worse and worse, so her mother took her to the doctor that day and they prescribed her antidepressants. The next day, she'd go missing. Her family and loved ones would never see her again. After being very excited about a date that she was going to go on with a girl that she met online. And that's one thing about these dating app cases, that many victims are just looking for love, for dopamine, for connection, to feel something other than pain. Many of the people on these dating sites are lonely and heartbroken and searching for some sort of human interaction that can bring them happiness. So many of the victims that we've talked about this month were struggling with depression in the first place and being sought out online where they're vulnerable, where they are vulnerable, and the predator is essentially anonymous. It's just terrifying.
Yeah, I agree.
You know? Sydney's last post on social media was a photo on her Snapchat story that read, "Ready for my date," with the heart emoji eyes. The date in question was with a 23-year-old woman that she had met on Tinder named Audrey, who Sydney had just matched with the day before. They had gone on a date that night, like just a few hours after they had matched. Just hours after matching and talking, they had a great time, and then they decided to do it again the next night, and that would be the night that she goes missing. Now, Audrey was not who she says she was. That was not her real name. Her real name was Bailey Boswell.
Ah, fuck, I've heard of this case.
I figured you did.
Yeah. I almost picked it to cover it.
I figured you would. Now, I have to preface this since you brought that up. I almost covered this case for Cult Month.
Yep.
You'll see why later.
I also looked this case up back then.
But I think we'll discuss it when we get to it. But there's a reason why I didn't pick it for Cult Month.
Same.
Okay. I like that we both looked into this one.
Yeah.
So Bailey basically had this murder planned before they had even matched. Bailey had a hard life. Her father was murdered when she was just a baby, and growing up without a father was excruciating for Bailey. She, like Sydney, immersed herself in sports growing up. She was the fastest runner on her relay team and one of the best players on her school basketball team, earning a scholarship to play college basketball. But after high school, she hit rock bottom. She turned away from athletics and instead turned to substance abuse. In 2016, she was caught with paraphernalia charges. She married her boyfriend, who was also abusing substances, and she gave birth to their daughter soon after. It is stated by those who were close to Bailey that her husband, Freddie Pannell, was not just abusing substances, but was abusing her as well. Her mother later said that he was, quote, physically, emotionally, and sexually abusive. While she was pregnant, he beat her and stomped on her face.
My God.
Both Bailey and Freddie's drug addictions led to them losing the custody of their daughter. Luckily for their daughter. I think that she did go either to one of the grandparents' homes, but she did get to a better home. Bailey was able to escape after this. She got away from Freddie. She moved to another town for a new start, but this wouldn't be the new start that she was hoping for. Bailey moved to Princeton, Iowa, and there she met a man named Aubrey Clifton Trail in an online forum seeking sugar daddies.
See, the whole, like, I would have totally done this, but I was
really
too
want
old
one,
when that,
but I don't
like,
know.
Well, honey, you about 10 years too old for that shit.
Girl, I know, but
you
know,
have to be
I
like,
want one in theory. I don't want them to touch
you got to be
or
like
talk to me.
20 to 25 and no kids, and you better be able to bounce a quarter off them abs.
So, Aubrey was a very sick man. He was mentally ill.
Yeah.
And he wasn't ever diagnosed as far as I know, but just listening to him talk, listening to the things that he's done, listening to the things that he's been through, he's not okay.
No, deeply disturbed individual.
Very, very. He had an extremely abusive and impoverished childhood. He was abused by his parents so badly that by the age of 2, he had to go live with his grandfather. But it didn't take long until he was forced back into his parents' household, being abused all over again. Eventually, he was moved into foster care and would bounce around from foster home to foster home, eventually into a juvenile facility, and then into prison for armed robbery as a teenager. By the time that Bailey met Aubrey, he was in his 50s and, quote, the vampire leader of a witch cult.
Sure, Jan.
Yeah. See, okay. This is why I didn't choose it for Cult Month, because there's no name of the cult.
No, it's not a proper cult. It sounds more like a dumb social group that never really went anywhere.
Yeah, I think that him calling it a cult was, I don't know, just something just something in his own head.
It reminds me of the Kentucky Fried Vampire shit. Is what it reminds me of a bit.
Yeah, but they didn't even have.
No, they were more legit.
Yeah.
They had like blood parties and shit.
Yeah, the KFC.
Oh God.
The KFC cult at least had like some sort of doctrine. They had rules. They had, some sort of structure. And I think that kind of...
A lot of written material.
That kind of defines the cult.
I agree.
As a cult.
And this is the same reason I chose not to cover this for Cult Month, because it's not a proper cult. Not really. It was just, he called it one, but that's why I said, sure, Jan.
Yeah, I think he was maybe trying to start one. I think he was using the idea of a cult to basically mask what he was really trying to do.
That's what I believe also.
Yeah, they had to call him Daddy, which I almost threw up in my mouth. He would lure young women seeking a dom or a sugar daddy or a just general date on a dating app, telling them that he's a vampire in need of witches. He essentially created his own harem and pimped these women out under the guise of ethereal powers. He told the women that they could leave the coven at any time until they took their first life. And once they took their first life, they were his permanently. He'd convince them of their powers and then tell them that if they wanted to be even more powerful, they had to take a life as an equal trade. And every life they took as theirs, their powers would then be doubled. And with all of his witches combined, he, the vampire, would feast and be that much more powerful.
I fucking hate these people.
I don't
So
believe a
stupid.
single word of it.
No, I think he just wants weird sex stuff.
That and some other things I'll get into.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's to cover up his scheme, and it's basically to enchant these women.
Yeah.
You know, it's all a head trip.
He just wants a bunch of girls.
Yeah.
That he can do whatever he wants to.
Yeah.
And
Which,
control.
again, almost every single cult leader, that's exactly what they want too.
It's
but-
funny. I shared a meme today where it was like, male cult leader, I have received a message from God. And then the guy says, you're going to
Take
want
multiple
wives.
wives.
He goes, I'm going to take multiple wives. It's very much like that,
Yes,
always.
Yes. And I don't
There
know.
are, of course, exceptions like
the alien one.
Heaven's Gate.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Shinrikyo had, it wasn't quite the same.
Yeah.
It wasn't quite the same.
It was brutal though. So basically that was what this date with Sydney was all about. Bailey wanted her to be her first kill. So she had actually gotten on the dating app to seek a person to be her first kill. That's what I meant whenever I said this murder was already planned before even matching. It was basically like her initiation, her rite of passage. On November 14th, 2017, Bailey made an account on Tinder under the alias Audrey and found Sydney nearly immediately. They matched and the two started talking. They seemed to instantly click. Sydney asked her a few times if they'd be alone, and Bailey assured her that they would be. And I kind of want to just talk about this for a second because I feel like this is a very important topic of conversation, especially for the queer community. And I feel like we see it a lot more with lesbians specifically, because she had actually complained to her friend just like a day or two before this date because it was really getting difficult for her to find a girl on these dating apps that actually wanted to be one-on-one with a girl. A lot of times she was finding, I think she went on several dates where she thought she was going to date a woman, and then it ended up being a woman who was married to a man who just wanted a third.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. The amount of times.
The amount of fucking times.
I would be rich if I had a penny. But, you know, I feel like that was kind of like part of her apprehension on these dating apps. You know, she kind of had her guard up.
Well, yeah, you have to.
And then as soon as she saw someone who was her age, into smoking weed, into chilling, like she hit all the boxes. It was like
she
they
was
were,
excited.
you know, yeah. It was like she had this pre-built guard up, and then once those
But
green
let it down
flags,
because all the bullet points were reached.
exactly.
I've been there.
Right.
Yeah.
Same. She was lonely. She was bored. She was depressed. She was stressed the fuck out. She had a job, but it wasn't making enough to pay her bills and support the lifestyle that she wanted. She was tired of struggling. She wanted more out of life. She wanted to find love, and she wanted to find friends, and she wanted to have a good time. Going on a date with a pretty girl would be a great distraction from the bullshit in her life, and I completely understand that. Wholeheartedly, especially as a single person now. The first date went well. Sydney met up with Audrey, and they went to Bailey's apartment that she shared with Aubrey. Luckily, that night, Aubrey wasn't there. The two headed down to the basement. They smoked weed. They chilled. They had a good time. They had, great conversations, and everything went really well. She went home that night, and the two continued to talk all throughout the night and into the next day, making plans to meet up again that night after Sydney got off work on November 15th. Sydney posted her last Snapchat story with the quote, "Ready for my date," and then she left her apartment. The thing about Sydney is she's dependable. She never missed work. She never missed appointments. She always answered her phone. She always texted back. She stayed online and in constant contact with her loved ones. When the calls and text messages went unanswered, at first everyone just hoped that she'd probably was just asleep and that she'd probably call back soon. But when she didn't show up to work at Maynard's hardware store, her coworkers instantly knew that something was wrong. She had worked for the company since she had graduated high school, and she had never missed a day of work. Also, it was almost Thanksgiving, and she had made plans with her parents to have dinner since she was scheduled to work on Black Friday. So she, of course, wouldn't miss dinner with her parents. She, of course, wouldn't miss work. Like, these are all things that meant a lot to her. So when her mother's text went unanswered, by 5 o'clock, dinner time came around and she still wasn't there. She knew something was wrong. And so she called the police immediately to file a missing persons report.
Yeah, I would too.
Police showed up at Sydney's house the next day for a welfare check. She was nowhere to be found. There was no sign of forced entry or foul play, no sign that anyone other than Sydney had been there. The only thing missing was Sydney. Her car was there, her glasses, her purse, they were all there. The only indicator that something was wrong was that her cat, Mimsy, was out of food. And that is something that she would have never let happen.
Yeah.
She loved that. That cat was her life. That cat was more important than life itself. Mimsy's bowl always had food in it.
Yeah, that's how I feel about my bun. My little bunny bun.
That was the biggest red flag in this case, and that just really breaks my heart. Sydney's parents made the 3-hour drive to their daughter's apartment, where they were able to find her laptop, which they gave to police for evidence. They hoped it would help uncover some clues to Sydney's whereabouts, but nothing of value was found. Her cell phone, ID, and debit card were also missing. They were able to trace her cell phone from her house in Lincoln to a cell phone tower over in Wilbur, which is where Bailey and Aubrey lived. Her last cell phone ping was at 8:32 p.m., and then her phone was shut off. That's pretty early in the evening.
That is very early in the evening to shut off your phone.
Yeah, it's pretty much immediately after she left the house.
I don't, that doesn't sit well.
That is a huge red flag.
Agreed.
But it wouldn't take long for Sydney's friends to help investigators piece it all together.
See, isn't that a common theme in this month?
I love this about friendships. Oh my God. Holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I gotta hand it to, like, my personal friend group. Like, not to bring astrology in this, but so many of us have Scorpio and Capricorn placements that, like, we are just, like, natural born detectives. Like, you give us one name or one, like...
Yeah, Capricorn moon, bitch.
Girl, and then Virgo placements, too, with you. Like, we are just, like, natural
I
born
will
detectives.
root you out. I will know all your secrets.
You just have to give me a very vague description of a person, and I will find them.
I will find that bitch.
Yes, every time.
I'll root them out like a pig after truffles, motherfucker.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's basically what her friends did. So they got the screenshot of Sydney's last Snap story before it, was taken off Snap. If you don't use Snapchat, it's up there for 24 hours. The screenshot of it is at the 22nd hour. Like, I'm just so proud of them for catching that and screenshotting it before it got taken down. And then she must have sent a screenshot of a snap that this Audrey girl, Bailey, had sent her, because a snap of this person that she was going on a date with ended up circulating through her friends group as well. And it was a picture of her with the, like, infamous Snapchat fake flower crown filter, which I fucking hate, and I'm so glad it's gone. But it is kind of just, like, I don't know, a sign of the times. I don't know. But her best friend, Brooklyn McChrystal, created a fake profile on Tinder and essentially copied what Sydney had written on her bio. She knew the woman Sydney had met on Tinder's name, at least on the profile, was Audrey, and she had that photo for comparison. It didn't take long for Brooklyn to find Audrey, and the two matched. Her profile said that she was 32 miles away, the same distance as the town Sydney had told her friends that she was going to the night that she went missing. Brooklyn and Audrey started messaging each other on Tinder, and Brooklyn was able to secure her phone number, which she gave to police. Simultaneously, investigators were able to pinpoint Sydney's last cell phone ping to a duplex in Wilbur, where the landlord had just recently complained about a very strong smell of bleach coming from the basement. The police showed up, and the landlord gave police keys to the basement apartment where Bailey Boswell and Aubrey Trail had been living. When police entered, they saw that no one was home. The place was completely spotless, and it did, in fact, smell very strongly of bleach. Obviously, it was suspicious, so police left to go get a warrant. They came back the next day to do an official search, but they still found nothing beyond a very strong odor. Bailey and Aubrey knew that they were suspects already. It was all over the news.
Yeah.
And so they decided to go on the run. They both went to social media to try to appear innocent. On November 28th, they went on Facebook Live together talking about Sydney. Aubrey assured the listeners that they weren't on the run, even though they're in a car.
God, I remember watching
They're
these
in a car
videos.
dressed in all black. She has
Yeah.
her hood up with sunglasses on. They're like, I'm not on the run.
I remember watching these
Okay.
videos. They're really nuts. Have you watched them?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And he's very, aggressive at police.
Very.
Very. And I don't know why are you doing that? I understand because he's very pissed off about the fact that his face and name are all over the media when he's just a suspect. In his words, quote unquote, just a suspect. He basically told the listeners that he was in fact not on the run, but cooperating with investigating officers, that all the leads had come directly from him, and that they had filed reports with their lawyers about their knowledge and involvement and what they knew of their whereabouts of Sydney Loofe's and her last appearance. They both were extremely pissed off about the way that the media was portraying them, and Bailey went on to say that that she had had a wonderful night with Sydney. She said that they drove around, they smoked weed, they talked, they chilled. She said she dropped her off at her home that first night. They ended up going out that second night, and she said that nothing happened. She said that they just drove around Lincoln, again, smoking weed. She said that they went back to her place, smoked some more weed. She was like, we smoked shatter, we smoked dabs, we smoked all this shit. She was like, I gave Sydney a 1/4 ounce of bud, and she went to take Sydney home, and instead Sydney asked to be dropped off at a friend's house. She said that she dropped her off at that friend's house, and she never saw her again. She said that Sydney was a sweet and amazing girl, and that she hopes that she's found safe soon. And they would find her soon enough. On November 30th, Bailey and Aubrey were arrested in Branson, Missouri, of all places.
I don't know where that is.
Which is funny just for us.
Because we are 30 minutes away.
Yeah, it's like a stone's throw away, Branson, Missouri. And so we're a tourist town, like a Victorian gay tourist town. Mm-hmm. And Branson, Missouri is a tourist town. It's like Christian Vegas. It is a strip of magic shows and Ripley's Believe It or Not and wax
the type
museums.
Of comedy is you might be a redneck if that kind of dumb shit.
It is all Christian,
But Dolly Parton's Roundup is there.
Dolly Parton is there, and that's actually a really cool show. I've
been
to
it.
You
sit
in this amphitheater with
fucking cool.
Horses and
there's
shit.
Horses.
And you eat steak.
You are eating and there's horses
food.
And lassoing and shit.
It's really cool. If you go to Branson, Missouri, at least
it's kind of like a live action, live in person yeehaw.
Mm-hmm. But there's several amusement parks that are all centered around Christianity.
And I will say
very
this.
otherworldly.
And then they have, I will say this about Branson. It's cute, okay? It's a cute town. That's not my vibe. I rock up in there.
As a spectator. I'm just wow, what the fuck is this?
My dumb ass just forgets, and I'm wearing just some horrible hoe shirt with some satanic shit on it, and I'm in my big sunglasses.
I love it.
And everybody's just and I'm what? Why? And I'm
love it.
Fuck, I am sorry. Yeah. All my shirts are like that. I just have no choice. But yeah, I just, it's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine. They have an Aldi's there, and I enjoy that for the cheap groceries.
Yeah.
And the drive is really pretty.
It is gorgeous. It is gorgeous.
Nice
It's
and
nestled in the middle of the
peaceful.
Ozarks, and it's just
There's so
gorgeous.
many hills and cool looking fucking rocks.
Mhm,
Yeah, I
mhm.
like Branson.
The lake, Table Rock Lake, that is here
Goes
where
all the
we
way to
live,
fucking there.
goes all the way to Branson.
Hell
We
yeah.
could take a boat there.
I need a fucking boat, and I've been saying this for years.
Our neighbor has a boat. We'll just
I'll just go bother
Yeah.
Brian, and if he listens, Brian, I'm coming for your boat, and you're gonna take me to Branson.
I think he does listen to this podcast.
Oh, hi.
But yeah, I don't know why I just had to talk about Branson, Missouri, just because that's where they got caught. I don't even know if they spent any time there. I think they were just traveling through.
Isn't it weird though when we cover a case and it's nearby where we have been?
And we just like fangirl just because we know things about it.
Well, I'm not
Not
fangirling.
fangirl.
Oh,
That was the wrong type of word, but you know what I mean. Like we're just like, oh, I know that thing.
all right. Take your foot out of your mouth and continue.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know what you mean though.
Yeah. There should be a word for it, but there's not.
Yeah, there isn't.
Nope. So yeah, they were found in Branson, Missouri. They were arrested on unrelated federal fraud charges for a gold coin scheme. Like just some random fucking crime. This guy wants to do all the schemes, basically.
Yeah, he just wants to do
So-
all of the crime.
all of the crimes, yeah, all of
Uh-huh.
like the shady crimes.
Yeah.
And so he, like with his harem, he would get them to steal a lot of times from John's. Like he was into all kinds of things, and so he had gotten his group of witches in on this gold coin scheme. And since it had crossed state lines and
That's a
gone
federal
down
crime,
the
bitch.
interstate, exactly.
You go to Leavenworth for that shit, motherfucker.
Right. Which they weren't very far from there, so
That's why I
they're
mentioned
lucky
it.
they didn't. Bailey was sentenced to 5 years in prison and required to pay back over $200,000 for her part in the gold scheme. And Aubrey was sentenced to serve 10 years in prison, which required him to pay over $300,000. This enabled law enforcement to obviously keep their suspects secure and supervised during the investigation on Sydney's disappearance. December 4th, 2017, less than a week later, Sydney's body was found dismembered in many different places. Placed in, now I have seen different sources say different things as far as like how many bags her body was put in. The majority of the sources say 13.
Oh my God.
There is a belief that there was 14 bags and they only found 13. I tend to lean on the 13 bags just because it's a prominent number in witchcraft, and I don't know, I figure they were doing that for reasons. But that's just my idea. But these 13 bags that they had found were scattered across several rural dirt roads all around the county, stretching from miles apart. Some of her body parts and internal organs, including her heart, were never found. She was identified by her tattoo, which read, "Everything will be wonderful someday."
Oh, that hurts my feelings.
God.
Damn it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my
pitiful.
God.
It's just pitiful, and I hate it.
Sorry, guys. Wow, I didn't think I would do that. God, I really want to. I'm not really into like script tattoos personally, but I would get that tattooed in her honor, for sure.
It's a cute tattoo.
For sure. Alongside her body, alongside some of the bags that were found, they found multiple sex toys, a dog leash, and a plastic sauna suit. Police also uncovered a series of surveillance videos that allowed them to get a better picture of what Bailey and Aubrey were doing during the day of November 15th, just hours before the second date and the subsequent murder of Sydney. At 11:30 a.m., they stopped by an antique mall where they bought a folding saw, a weeder, and food grinders.
Jesus.
Cell phone records show that Bailey and Aubrey went from there to Sydney's apartment. They waited outside until she left and they followed her to work. When they all got to Maynard's, Aubrey went inside. Sydney was there at the counter because she's a cashier, and the videos show Aubrey coming in watching her. She has no idea who Aubrey is, and he's just watching her. He then purchases an air freshener, cotton cord rope, Drano, protein bars, a thermometer, and lighters. That is so fucking sinister.
I was fixing to say, like, that's just creepy.
You are going to purchase items that you are going to use to murder.
From the person, basically.
You are going to murder that cashier, and she is scanning the objects.
It's just so gross
that
and
are going
scary.
to kill her within a couple hours.
It's very scary.
What the absolute fuck?
I agree.
So after this, they go to Home Depot, and they purchase a foot-long hacksaw, tin snips, which if you don't know what those are, I had to look them up because I wasn't familiar with that term. They're what we would know as fiskers. If you're in the cultivating communities, if you trim.
I used to clean that building, Fisker's office.
Did you really? Okay.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Always wanted to steal the scissors, but I didn't.
They are the best.
I know.
Yeah, they will give you carpal tunnel, though. So they also bought some drop cloths and a utility knife with backup blades. They then went to Dollar General, bought a tree saw, 30-gallon trash bags, and a couple gallons of Clorox bleach. They went back out after the murder and bought more bleach, trash bags, and a trash bin from a nearby grocery store. Cell phone records also showed the pair going to each location where the body parts were later found. I will say that it is my opinion, my personal opinion. I have not heard anybody else mention this, but I personally believe that the sex toys scattered around Sydney's remains were actually just plants. I don't think they had anything to do with her murder. I don't think they had anything to do with Sydney. I think that they were placed there to basically keep with their storyline. None of the sex toys had her DNA on them. The only thing that had her DNA on them were a pair of pants and gloves, which had her blood on them. Now, it was very faint, small samples, and they did find partial prints of Aubrey's on sections of cord that he later admitted that he used to strangle her. But as far as like anything else is concerned, there was hardly any DNA evidence on anything. Which I just find that much more sinister and fucked up, that they would place these items around her body to stage it in an even more grotesque way. I just really think that it's trying to diminish the victim's character, in my opinion.
I agree.
I don't know how it could, because I couldn't see it from that point of view.
No,
but I feel like that was possibly their intention.
Yes, I agree.
If that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
So, during the interrogation, Aubrey Trail told investigators that Sydney's death was a sexual fantasy gone wrong, which is why I think those were placed there. He told them that he had set up a deal with Sydney and 2 other women to film a torture porn with a promised payment of $5,000. He said that Bailey had basically passed out on drugs beforehand, that she wasn't involved in any way. She was sound asleep when all of this took place. He said that it was all his doing and that he had accidentally strangled Sydney a little too hard during rough sex, and she died by accident. He said that he panicked and dismembered her because he couldn't just carry her out of the basement apartment without anyone seeing. He backtracked a lot during this interview. He purposely ignored questions and was all around just really sketchy during this interview. They knew he wasn't telling the truth, and he was obviously hiding something. He also mentioned the cult, of course. He mentioned the witches and a ritual in which Sydney was an offering. He said that he drank her blood as part of this ritual as well, because, of course, he's a vampire. It's just funny if you see this man's picture.
Yeah.
You know,
You
it's
do not think Louis
Yeah,
from Interview
yeah.
with the Vampire or Dracula.
it's like the Vampire of Paris. I get. He looked the part. He acted the part. I get that.
I mean, I can't
that.
disagree.
But
Though
this
I
guy-
want to.
Anyway,
Hey, even the Kentucky Fried Vampires look better than this dude.
even at least more like vampires than this guy. I mean,
At least they was dressing up for the part.
yeah, this wasn't at all. At all.
No, looks like somebody's gross dad.
He doesn't look like a vampire. He looks like an umpire.
Shut your fucking mouth, you stupid
Sorry.
whore.
I'm so tired.
I know, we're both slap happy.
So, yeah, as you can imagine, the whole investigation was a media frenzy.
Twas.
I mean, you got cults, you got vampires, you've got fucking rituals and blood drinking, you've got all kinds of, you've got lesbians, you've got all like the hashtags, you know, that you would want
Yeah, all
for
the
a
juicy
story.
stuff, yeah.
Even while Bailey and Aubrey were mere suspects, the local news outlets were covering every break in the case. So by the time they went to trial, it was major headline. And basically there was just huge crowds of spectators. Everybody was hanging on to every second of this trial. During the first week of trial, Aubrey Trail didn't speak a word. He didn't say anything. He didn't hardly react at all. The first day of the second week of trial, in the middle of court, all of a sudden, Aubrey yells out, "Bailey is innocent, and I curse you all." And in one fluid motion, he slit his own throat in front of everyone.
Yeah.
He had been sitting in a wheelchair. I don't know why, but he had been sitting in a wheelchair, and he just fell out of that wheelchair, collapsed to the ground, completely motionless, bleeding all over the floor. It's believed that he had a hidden razor blade with him, but the exact weapon has never been disclosed. Just all of the reports say we suspect a razor blade. The judge basically at that moment cleared the room, had everyone leave except for lawyers and police officers, and then the emergency personnel arrived. They transported Aubrey to the hospital. He received a few stitches.
He weren't dead.
He weren't dead. And I believe there was 2 cuts on his neck.
And they were very shallow.
Yeah, it still didn't make it through. But yeah, he just got a few stitches and he went to court the next day, but this time with handcuffs.
Good bitch.
Yeah. Aubrey eventually cracked and confessed to lying about what really happened the night of Sydney's death. He actually had several confessions, like several new confessions, several new revelations, several like backtracking. And so, yeah, everything that he says should be taken with a grain of salt. And I assume he's lying about something every single time he reconfesses.
Oh, every time he opens fucking mouth.
Yeah. So we really can't say for sure what happened to Sydney the night that she died. He did end up saying that there was no video because, like, in the interrogation, he said that he filmed the entire thing. Well, he backtracked later on and said that there was no video, that he had lied about taping the sadistic torture scene, even though witnesses say that he had spoken often about wanting to make snuff films, about getting into the market of torture porn, and even later, like while he was in jail on trial and all of this stuff, the FBI actually uncovered a series of letters that he had been sending Bailey, and basically they were talking about, like, they were like cryptic, and they had like this weird code that they had to decipher, and it basically was telling Bailey what to say in court.
Just dumbasses all around.
Yeah, but
in
in those things, he was still talking about doing torture porn for money in jail. So I don't know how you would get a camera, but I don't want to know where the GoPro is going. He said that Sydney had that basically it was just him and Sydney and Bailey. He said that there weren't actually other women like he had originally said. And he said that Sydney had threatened him to basically out him for all of his crimes. He said that Sydney was going to tell everybody that what he was really up to, that he was trafficking women and all of this stuff, and that basically he had no other choice but to silence her. He said that he strangled her with an extension cord and that Bailey Boswell helped dismember and dispose of the body and clean up the crime scene. One thing we know he told the truth about, the only thing we know for sure that he told the truth about, was where they had put her personal belongings. Police later went to that location and found her cell phone, ID, and credit card. The autopsy revealed that her cause of death was in fact strangulation. She also had several defensive wounds on her body, showing that she fought back, and she fought like hell. I think even like part of her earlobe was almost completely off. So yeah, it wasn't no fucking accident. With that evidence, as well as purchasing basically the dismembering kit the night before, or the day before, it was clear to the court and the jury that this was completely premeditated. Also, while in jail awaiting trial, they found that the letters to Bailey. So it just goes to show you that, like, not only did they premeditate this, they were actively just constantly trying to weasel their way out the entire fucking time. From going on the run to posting these videos on Facebook and writing letters, like not just to each other, but they were writing letters to other people, just trying to like really play up this story of innocence. And it just held absolutely no weight. It only took 3 hours for the jury to deliberate. In October of 2020, Aubrey Trail and Bailey Boswell were convicted of first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and the improper disposal of human remains. In June of 2021, a 3-judge panel agreed to sentence 52-year-old Aubrey Trail to death, where he currently awaits on death row in Tecumseh State Correctional Institution. 26-year-old Bailey Boswell was sentenced to life in prison, currently at Nebraska Correctional Center for Women. Now, since Sydney's death, several scholarships have been created in her name, which I know is definitely something that she would have wanted. And especially knowing that, you know, she wanted a bigger and brighter future for herself, and being the selfless person that she is and was, I believe that she would want that just blossoming and bright future for other people. So I think that it was very admirable for her parents and for these other organizations to start these scholarship funds in her name. Sydney's parents, George and Susie, partnered with the anti-trafficking nonprofit organization called the Set Me Free Project to create a $3,000 scholarship called A Legacy of Hope in honor of Sydney Loofe for students pursuing careers in social work, cybersecurity, and criminology, which I just think is beautiful. The CEO of that company, Stephanie Olson, said, quote, "We want to make sure that her legacy is a legacy of hope, a legacy that is positive, and a legacy of safety." And so we know that what she went through had to do with some social media safety issues. And so our goal with this scholarship is to really honor her, to bring awareness to this. And I'd like to further her statement with that, just to say that I think the scholarship also helps put up those safety barriers. It helps other people put up those safety barriers, so that way, hopefully, there are no more cases like this.
Agreed.
The Sydney Loofe Memorial Scholarship Fund, another one, also provides assistance to Nebraska's high school students, seniors who plan on attending college anywhere, literally anywhere, to study in a field that will impact the safety of their community. And I love that that is just kind of like an open, broad scheme, or an open, broad, window of availability for people. Because I know that scholarships, they have such it's very niche, right? Like, you know, you have to be going to this school, you have to be studying on this, you have to have certain grades. And I like that they did that for that scholarship in particular, because it's literally, you can go anywhere and do anything as long as you're contributing to your community. And I think that's
as long
beautiful.
as they don't give scholarships, people want to be cops.
Yeah, because that's not
because they're not contributing to the safety of the community. What?
No, they
Hi,
aren't.
you know what isn't either? Business time. Yes, I'm not gonna business too much because I'm insane with tiredness. So,
we can contribute to the safety of our community.
Do I?
Our community of listeners.
I don't know about that.
I think a lot of people who listen to podcasts are usually indoors.
Sure, but here's what I
which is
think
usually safe.
also is that I contribute to a lot of hoery and debauchery. And I probably cause our listeners occasional damage.
I know a lot of our listeners have trouble driving and listening it sometimes.
That was my fault.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Stomach stitches.
It's very good podcasting when you got fucking shit in your fucking tooth.
Why are you doing that?
Because it's driving me mad. I'm too autistic to have shit in my teeth. But
She's
I'm not
here talking and picking at the same time.
Go fuck yourself. But I'm not too autistic to talk about business time. There, I like that one better.
You're perfectly autistic to talk about business time.
Sit on it and spin, dummy.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we have a Patreon. It's pretty cool. I'm going to have my new episode up this week, I promise. My job exploded. It got DDoS attacked. Because,
I don't know what that is.
It's a series of, like, security attacks and brings down servers and it fucks everything up. So I couldn't job. And that's sad. But it's like I couldn't job, but I was also jobbing, but not getting paid for it because I kept trying to job unsuccessfully. I work at home. Don't make me explain it. Anyway, if you want to help me out because I can't pay any of my bills now because I couldn't job. And, my pay? We don't know where it is right now. It just went into the ether. Cool. So if you want to, like, help me out, you can. You don't have to. But it'd be cool if you want to send $5 and I'm going to get a sandwich because I'm hungry. In addition, join our Patreon if you would like. I'm going to have some new episodes up this weekend, and then that's the tea and a cruelty episode. I'm excited about them. One's about dying in a cave, and the other one's a secret. Because I haven't figured it out yet, but I will. Also, look at our link tree. It has all our links. Come on our Discord. Have I almost made you wreck your vehicle? You can come yell at me about it, but gently because I have hurt feelings. They get hurt easily. So you may give me compliments in Discord. Don't do that. Those also make me embarrassed. Just come in there and show me a picture of your dog or something.
Go into Discord and tell Lillian that she's adorable.
Yeah, it's unnecessary.
She's so cute.
Yeah, it's just not necessary.
She's so cute.
I'm not cute. I'm nearly 6 feet tall and I'm mean and have the worst resting bitch face you've ever seen.
The more she fights the cuteness, the cuter she gets.
No, I can admit I can be cute.
It's adorable.
Well, cuteness is adorable. If I'm trying to be cute, but most of the time
Aww, look at you go.
I'm just going to fucking make her eat her teeth, friends. And I'm sorry, I'm not making any sense. Basically, just check out the link tree. Don't be scared of it. You can get t-shirts and stuff. You can join our Discord. You can join our Patreon. You can send me hate mail, which I don't read.
The t-shirts are amazing, especially for summertime.
Hey,
Holy
I've had
shit.
mine for nearly 3 years,
They
and
are
that shit
so
hold up.
soft and
They are
so
soft.
comfy.
They is. And the little like insulated cup, I put my sweet tea in there. Because you know that's what I be sipping on.
Eager. Don't get yourself a Stanley. Get yourself one of these. It's like a fraction of the price. A fraction of a fraction.
Stanley?
They have lead in it.
Do they?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah,
I
careful.
mean, at this point, I'm getting bombarded with microplastics and free radicals all the time, and I vape a lot, and I eat trash frequently.
Apparently, the microplastics are what is part of what's preserving us. So whatever.
I'm just pickled at this point. I've done enough drugs.
I'm a timeless millennial. Nobody knows my age.
You know, like Keith Richards, I'm just never going to die.
Yep.
Anyway, I'm done.
I love you guys.
If you are listening on YouTube, like, subscribe, follow, push a bell thing, leave a comment.
Do it.
And the more unhinged, I challenge you to unhinge me. Let's hinge and unhinge together. Just come on there and just say the most out of pocket shit.
Just go into the comments and be like WD-40,
and I'll be like, yeah, I'm creaky, bitch. You know, who knows what I'll say? It'll be fun, huh? So just do that. It helps us on YouTube because video soon. Lillian has been teaching herself how to edit video, and I'm pretty good at it now. I just need a decent camera, and then we'll be all up your butt there too. So get ahead of the game. And, like, subscribe to that shit.
So your notifications are on.
That's right. But if all you can do to support this podcast is listen, hey, thanks.
Thank you.
It's for you. Share it around. Tell your friends. Leave a nice review. That's what that would
a
be
cute
nice.
rhyme.
I wasn't trying. I'm just completely out of my gourd. Anyway, love you guys, and we'll see you next time.
Good night.
us on your social media platform of choice. Linktree/cruelty has all of the links. Check out our Patreon for exclusive episodes, merch, ad-free episodes, live ghost hunts, and much more. Please be sure to subscribe. New episodes are uploaded weekly. Thank you so much. See you next time. Music and production by Willie B.